I'll call the meeting to order. Can I have a mover and seconder to do that, please? Councillor Maud Chapman, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, that the regular meeting of the Council of Township of Springwater of December 15, 2021 come to order at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. With COVID, Council is taking the necessary steps to limit in-person meetings. As such, we are conducting it via Zoom with Council members and staff and other people attending. You can watch the meeting live on the Township website at www.springwater.ca. You can listen to the meeting during the meeting by telephone by dialing 647-558-0588 and using the ID code 876-3918-0519. And if you wish to look at the streaming after the meeting, you can view that on the Township's YouTube channel, which is accessible through the Township website. Council, are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest tonight? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder to call the public meeting to order? Councillor Ritchie, Councillor Maud Chapman. That this public meeting of council held under section 34 of the Planning Act for zoning bylaw amendment ZB 2021-015 by W. Crown of MHBC Planning on behalf of 86 Mill Street Inc. be called to order at 6:32 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Director Spagno, did you have your hand up while I was going through that?
Yes, Mayor Allen. I just wanted to advise yourself and council that Mr. Crown is currently signing in. He will be providing the presentation for the public meeting. It's just he's a little delayed in getting on to the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Let me just get this here. Okay, welcome to this public meeting of Springwater Township Council held in compliance with Section 4 of the Planning Act to give the public an opportunity to express their views in regard to proposed amendments to the Township of Springwater zoning bylaw as amended. The first part of this meeting is to present the amendment. Following that, the public will be given an opportunity to make an oral submission through this Zoom application. Any person wishing to make an oral submission must have notified the township prior to 8:30 a.m. this morning and must have been added to the commenters list. If a person or public body who files an appeal of a decision of the Township of Springwater in respect of the zoning bylaw amendment does not make an oral submission at a public meeting or written submissions to the Township of Springwater before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss all or part of the appeal. All comments or questions should be addressed through myself as chair. Oral submissions will be included in this meeting's minutes and form part of the public record, including the name and address of the speaker as information collected under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. The minutes of the meeting will be posted on the township's website. Tonight, we're dealing with ZB 2021-015 by Wesley Crown of MHBC on behalf of 86 Mill Street, Incorporated of 86 Mill Street. I'll now call upon the clerk to confirm notice of this meeting and the dates on which notice was given.
Notice of this public meeting was mailed on the 23rd day of November 2021 to the owner of the subject lands and to the assessed owners of 14 properties in the Township of Springwater within 120 meters of the area to which the proposed amendment would apply, and to all persons and public bodies as prescribed under the Planning Act and its regulations. Notice was also posted at the assessed properties to which the proposed amendment applies at locations visible from Mill Street West.
And has the planning department received any correspondence in response to these notices of public meeting?
Correspondence was received from the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority in an email dated December 15th, 2021, and these comments can be found attached to tonight's agenda.
I'll now call upon Mr. Wesley Crown of MHBC to give presentation to us outlining the purpose and effect of this proposal.
Good evening, Your Worship. Hopefully you can hear me.
On mute. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. I'm also going to share my screen. I have a presentation with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment that's before you this evening, and for which the clerk has confirmed that the proper notice under the Planning Act has been provided. I'm hoping I am able to share my screen appropriately, and you will be able to see the presentation. Can you confirm that, Your Worship, that you can see the presentation? Thank you.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to try to be very quick. This is a rezoning application, as you noted, with respect to 86 Mill Street, which is owned by 86 Mill Street, Inc. The owner is Harry Ehrlich, who will not be in attendance this evening. And it's with respect to a rezoning that results from a provisional consent approval with respect to the subject property, and also by way of implementing the municipality's official plan that has not yet been implemented in the zoning bylaw for the subject property. So, Your Worship, members of council, the subject property is a 3.3 hectare property located on the north side of Mill Street, has a frontage of almost 134 meters, is located about a kilometer east of Highway 93. And as the council will be aware, it is located within the settlement area of Hillsdale, serviced by private sewage and municipal water. The subject property has an existing single detached residential dwelling on the property, which is serviced, as I indicated, by private septic and municipal water. So, Your Worship, members of council, we submitted on behalf of the owner consent applications B04, B05, and B06 21 this year to create 3 new residential lots on the property. 1 lot 3 containing the existing dwelling, 2 vacant residential lots, and a retained lot as well. And provisional consent approval was granted in May of this year by your Committee of Adjustment, subject to 10 conditions, one of which was a rezoning requirement to bring the property into full compliance with not only the municipality's official plan, but also the environmental impact study that was prepared in support of the provisional consent application. As you can see on this slide, we're showing generally the location of the 3 lots, the one where the existing dwelling is, the 2 vacant, what will be residential lots, and the larger retained lots. As you can see, Your Worship, members of council, there is a large wetland feature on the subject property that we've addressed through the preparation and approval of an environmental impact study, and will be reflected not only in the satisfaction of the conditions of the consent application, but also through the implementation of the relevant zoning bylaw amendment. So the application and the proposed rezoning that's before you is to rezone the severed lot 1 and 2 to permit the reduced lot frontages of 28.3 meters, which has been approved by your Committee of Adjustment, to rezone the portion of the retained lot associated with the wetland and the 30-meter buffer to an EP, or environmental protection zone, and then rezone a portion of lot 3 with the existing dwelling to an EP and R1 zone, from EP into an R1 zone. I will advise Your Worship, yourself and members of committee, that in addition to there being an error in the circulation of the notice, there was also identified recently that we have to shift a lot line for lot 3 so that it has a 2-meter setback for the interior side yard as opposed to a 3-meter setback. And so you will see this application again at a public meeting in January of next year to address the error in the circulation as well as the revisions to the rezoning. But because the notice was circulated and there was the occasion for the public to review and provide comments, we're presenting the full application this evening. Again, Your Worship, these are the proposed lots that were approved provisionally by your Committee of Adjustment. The proposed severed lot 1 and 2 have slightly reduced lot frontages, but in all other instances, the lots would comply with the municipality's zoning. We prepared and submitted to the municipality planning justification report, and as well there was the environmental impact study by Berks Natural Heritage, which was prepared and submitted to the municipality in support of not only the provisional consent application, but the rezoning application as well. Your Worship, I'm not going to go into great detail in the planning analysis in this presentation with respect to the policy and plan support for this application. Needless to say, it's our opinion that the application for rezoning and the provisional consent is fully supported by the provincial policy statement, the growth plan, the County of Simcoe official plan, and the municipality's official plan, in particular because the subject property is located within the settlement area of Hillsdale. As you can see in this slide, Your Worship, members of council, that the larger portion of the property is actually designated urban residential, but there is a portion of the property that is designated environmental protection. And it was as a result of that designation that an environmental impact study was required. On this slide, we're showing the municipality's zoning for the property, which has not yet been updated to reflect the municipality's official plan as amended by the Hillsdale secondary plan. And so the majority of the property is actually zoned residential R1 currently, with a small sliver of the eastern portion of the property that is currently within the environmental protection zone. Again, the summary of the application, Your Worship, is that we're dealing with a provisionally approved consent application, and the purpose of the rezoning that's before you is to bring it into compliance with the conditions of the Committee of Adjustment approval, and also to bring it into conformity and compliance with your official plan and the approved environmental impact study that was submitted in support of the application. Mr. Chairman, it's about as Reader's Digest condensed version as I can be in my presentation, but certainly more than willing to answer any questions that the committee may have. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but if necessary, Your Worship, I can bring it back up again in case there's any of the slides that may be helpful in response.
Thank you, Mr. Crown. And I will now call upon the moderator to provide the number of people who have registered to ask questions or make comments regarding this application, please. You're muted.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor Allen and Council. There are no commenters registered to make an oral submission for this application.
Thank you. Do any members of council have questions or comments regarding this application? I have one, Mr. Crown. The maybe to you, maybe to Director Spagnol. The retained lot is for future residents. I think I read in the report. What part of the retained lot would be restricted from building a residence? I see the wetland. Then you've got the maybe I'll start with you, Mr. Crown, and then talk to Director Spagnol.
Thank you, Your Worship. Happy to answer the question. It might be helpful if I share my screen again, if that's acceptable.
Sure, go ahead.
So hopefully you can see this slide, Your Worship. The wetland is concentrated in the northwestern portion of the property. You can see this dark hashed line here, which is the limit of the wetland. It's an unevaluated wetland that was included in the municipality's official plan. That's the limit that was identified by Berks NHS. And the other two lines are both a 25-meter and a 30-meter buffer zone. So it's this portion of the property, basically where you see a retained lot, which could accommodate a residential use without any additional study or requirements. The MVCA has agreed and supported to the construction of the driveway through the portion of the buffer. And one of the conditions that would be required by the provisional consent is to obtain the appropriate permits and approvals from the MVCA for the construction of the driveway through and to the retained lot.
So that's what that gray winding line is a potential driveway?
That's correct, Your Worship. That would be the driveway that the MVCA has agreed to, the location and the design of that. We currently have WMI Engineering working on all of the required engineering components of the provisional consent, and part of their work is addressing the design and the location of the driveway as part of the permit application to the MVCA.
Now you were mentioning about lot 3 and how the setback is reduced from 3 to 2, I believe. So will that have the impact of moving the left boundary of lot 3 eastward?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Your Worship. The original application to the municipality showed a 3-meter setback for the existing dwelling. The owner wishes to retain the existing dwelling and then create lot 3 around it. That's still the intention of the application. But this sketch that you see in the presentation this evening, we've shown the reduced side yard setback at 2 meters. And we're able to do a couple of things. One, which is maintain the 28.3 meter frontages for lots 1 and 2 is approved by the committee, and also maintain the buffer and its potential impact on lot 1, such that lot 1 is still a viable residential lot. As a result, to some extent, we were caught between a rock and a hard place, or an existing dwelling and a wetland boundary. And so the best solution, we thought, was to reduce that interior side yard setback between the existing home and the lot line between lot 2 and lot 3.
Okay. Council, any questions, comments? Councilor Ritchie?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through to Mr. Crown. The future driveway, what's the reason for that?
Mr. Crown?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Ritchie. Our original application was that the owner of the property wasn't sure what he wanted to do long-term with the retained property. The Conservation Authority requested that we address the issue of access to it as part of the conditions of the draft approval. It's my understanding now that the client intends to sell the retained lot as a building lot. It will have a driveway and a water service that will be constructed to the property line, and that so on sale, someone could build a single detached dwelling at the back of the property. We did not open negotiations with either the Conservation Authority or the municipality about whether they had any interest in being conveyed the balance of the retained lot, which had the wetland. It would have been surprising to me anyways if Springwater was interested in acquiring those lands. And my experience is that the Conservation Authority is very targeted in its acquisition of environmental land. So it will be a large building lot with a significant portion of the property that's protected from development through an environmental protection zone.
Good. Follow on?
Yes, and where's the existing building in relationship to the map you just showed us there? Is that at the bottom right-hand corner of the third lot?
That's correct, Councillor Ritchie. It's a little bit hard to see in with this remote presentation, but it is in the bottom left-hand corner or the south west corner of proposed lot 3.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Colgan, did you have your hand up? No. Okay. Thank you to all who participated in this public meeting with respect to this proposed zoning bylaw amendment and for showing interest in this matter. And thank you, Mr. Crown.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of council, we'll continue to work with staff and we'll see you in January.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas. Thank you. And I have a mover and seconder to adjourn this public meeting, please. Deputy Mayor Coghlan, Councillor Ritchie, that this public meeting held under Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, P13 as amended on zoning bylaw amendment ZB 2021-15 by W. Crown of MHBC Planning on behalf of 86 Mill Street, Inc., now adjourned at 6:52 p.m. All those in favor? And a mover and seconder for direction following the meeting, please. Councillor Ma Chapman and Councillor Cabral. That council, having held a public meeting in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 P13, as amended on zoning bylaw amendment ZB 2021-15 by W. Crown MHBC Planning on behalf of 86 Mill Street, Inc., having noted correspondence and input received, that the application be returned back to staff. All those in favor? That is carried. No deputations and presentations. Question period. You can pose questions by contacting our clerk's department, as is outlined on the agenda, to submit questions pertaining to the agenda items or make application to pose a question online. Clerk Ainsworth, have there been any questions for tonight's meeting?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. There have been no submissions for this evening's meeting.
Thank you. Moving on to 7.1, minutes of council. Mover and seconder for these, please. Councillor Cabral, Councillor Moore, that the minutes of council listed herein be approved as presented. Any questions, comments on these? These minutes are the special meeting of council of November 25, 2021, and the regular meeting of council December 1, 2021. All those in favor? Is carried. There are no other minutes. There's no correspondence and information items, so we move to 9.1, action reports. Can I have mover and seconder to get these on the floor, please? Councillor Cabral, Councillor Moore. Comments or desire to pull any of 9, 2, 3, 4, or 5? Councillor Hanna?
9, 2, and 9, 5, please. Questions?
Questions? Anything else? 9, 5. Go ahead, Councillor Hanna with 9, 2.
Okay, thank you. 9, 2 is the BIA report. And the question I have is to do with the Constitution, which is the last appendices B. Excuse me, on page 7.8 is a recommendation. I forget the page, I think it was 13. Anyway, it talks about the Constitution. It suggests in there that, I guess I better read it, but it suggests in there the requirements or the duties of a member of council that represents the BIA. And my question is, I've never seen that for any other committee where the committee actually sets out the responsibilities of a member of council. I think the member of council's responsibilities are identified by council and agreed to at that time when they take on the role as a committee. And I just found that interesting if that's going to be the new trend. Because further to that, when I go down and look at the 12.4 in the Constitution, it talks about the Integrity Commissioner, and members of the committee can contact the Integrity Commissioner and no cost and so on. My understanding is that any member of the public can contact the Integrity Commissioner to complain about a member of staff, I guess, or member of council. So with those two things in mind, as I suggested, the BIA setting out the duties of a member of council and also the reference to the Integrity Commissioner, it sounds to me like a member of council on a committee, if that's going to be the new trend, is basically put themselves in a position of double jeopardy. So I'm not sure how the rest of the council feel about that, but I'd like to hear from them.
Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you to Councillor Hannah. Outlining the role of a member of council on a committee or board is quite common. All of our other committees of council do have that role defined within the bylaw, which establishes the terms of reference for the committees. And with the Elmvale BIA being a board of council, it is autonomous. It has its own part of the municipal act that it does have to follow, but it's not really the BIA setting the role of council with this. That's why this bylaw is in front of council for approval. It is council who is responsible for my apologies for approving that that constitution that's in front of you this evening, but by no means is identifying the role of council out of the ordinary. It is quite common and generally something that's included during a terms of reference or a constitution of a board and committee.
Follow on.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the correction, because I don't recall ever seeing that on a board before, where it set out the duties of a member of council. I can see it coming through the municipal act or the council as a whole, but I'm just surprised to actually see it in print as a constitution in a committee. So again, I would appreciate hearing from the rest of the council what they think of it.
Any other comments by council? Councillor Cabral?
I'm not sure, Mayor Allen. Deputy Coughlin might have had her card up just before mine.
We'll hear from both of you.
I'll let her go first then.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. And just through you to Clerk Ainsworth, in the drafting of the policies that are before us, is that done by internal staff or is that done by the BIA?
Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. It is drafted by staff, and we do review several other constitutions of BIAs from around the province while we are drafting the wording within the Constitution. If I may, I realized I did not answer one of Councillor Hannah's questions regarding the Integrity Commissioner.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So what the Constitution outlines is just stating that members of the board do have the right, in accordance with the Municipal Act, for the use of the Integrity Commissioner when it comes to requesting advice on conflict of interest. So that's what the Constitution is just clarifying, that the board members do have that right. When it comes to what residents have access to the Integrity Commissioner for, as residents wouldn't have any conflict of interest unless they are a board or committee member. We just like to clarify that the board members and committee members also have use of that resource.
Okay, Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I know staff have worked on this. That particular section, 7.8, council representative duties, they seem fairly benign, but the reality is that especially D there talks about township policies, bylaws, and accountabilities to ensure BIA practices and procedures are aligned with those of the township. I think it does place a bit of conditionality, let's say, to whoever it is who sits on that particular board. And I would ask, if possible, that I be provided some indulgence to really reflect on this, seeing as I'm the one that sits on the BIA presently. I'd like to really wrap my head around it and see whether or not it's something that would effectively, as Councillor Hanna said, maybe put the person in double jeopardy. Just to review it, maybe over the holidays, could we bring it back in January? And that would give, I think, all of council an opportunity to look at it, because I would also like to look at the other committees and see what kind of conditions are in there and what their rules would be on their particular committees as well, prior to voting on this.
Okay, I think we need to pull this item. Clerk Ainsworth, is that what you were putting your hand up about?
Yes, and I would also just like to make comments on that, but I think it would be more appropriate once it's pulled, moved and seconded and tabled. I can make those comments at the time.
Councillor Hanna, with respect to 9.5, did you wanted question or pulling? You said question before, but do you still feel that?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I think a question just is appropriate at this time, because I'm looking for, if you want me to go ahead with my question now.
Please.
Thank you. In the recommendations that we have to approve tonight, it talks about us spending $193,000 for a architect. The last time this came before council, I just got to look at my notes here, but I think it was in August, where we sent back direction. It was my recollection anyway. The direction that we sent back was that we asked staff to look at the former architect that I believe we paid $150,000 to do a drawings for a fire hall that was approved, but then subsequently canceled. And that my recollection was the direction was to reach back to that firm and see if they would revisit our approved recommendations that they, or architect drawings that they did, and see what it would cost us for alterations. My question is, did that in fact happen? And is this one of the two architects that were looked at and the one that was selected?
I'll start with the general manager, Ramdeo, and then if he wants to refer to Chief Kirk, we can do so.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you to Councillor Hanna. I think the first thing I'd like to do is, if I could put Clerk Ainsworth on the spot for a second for that resolution from August, just to confirm what that might said. And whilst Clerk Ainsworth is pulling that up, is no, we did not reach back to the original architect. This was an open process where we went to the market for an architect to do the conceptual, to do the design, not the design, I should say, to do the 30% preliminary design, which is basically the bones of it, the systems, the geotechnical, and for us then to go to a design build contractor. So,
Chief Kirk, did you want to add anything before we?
Through you, Mayor Allen, to the rest of council. And I might defer this further to CEO Schmidt, but in our findings, there was no drawings that we could find. We reached out to the former fire chiefs, and I could not come up with any, nor I think the CEO could come up with any designs that Councillor Hanna is referring to.
Clerk Ainsworth, have you been able to locate it?
Thank you. So the motion does read that the report be received and that council authorize the cancellation of the current RFP and direct staff to seek options to engage an architect to provide design build plans with the intent of issuing a tender for construction, including review of a previous design that was obtained by the township and discussions with the County of Simcoe for potential partnerships.
Okay. Follow on, Councillor Hanna, then I'll go to Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Unfortunately, it was just recently I purged some of my files and I got rid of that, those drawings. I don't know, Mayor, you were on the committee at the time. I don't know if you still have them, but maybe the architect who did them would be able to provide them. But again, I have to go back to the direction back in August the 4th, and that was in order to save our taxpayers money by going back to the original architect. So if we haven't done that, I would suggest that I still would support us doing that.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you, yes, I also do remember the designs from Dom Construction, but I don't believe that Dom was part of the re-tender. They didn't bid on this project, and if so, they weren't successful. So I'm just curious, the intent of reviewing the existing or the pre-existing designs, what was the goal from that? Or what did we feel we would achieve from that?
Councillor Hannah.
Thank you. I would say it's obvious that the goal was we spent $150,000, and if we're going to be spending another $192,000, it might be a lot less money to go back to the original drawings that it cost $150,000 and make some readjustments to that to meet the current fire services needs.
Okay, again, this should be pulled, this item, in discussion. So, pardon me?
My
Okay.
apologies, Mayor Allen. I'm not suggesting a redirection. I'm not asking for it to be pulled. I just understand that the information that was provided to us was that at the time, the drawings were the property of Dom Construction, and we did not own the design. So there wouldn't have been an opportunity for us to do that. So I'm not asking to have this pulled in any way.
No, but I know you're not asking, but once we get past just a question and basic answer and get into discussion about what should happen about a particular item, that constitutes a need to pull the item. So we have a mover and seconder that action report items 9.2 through 9.5 be received, and that the recommendation 9.3 lift hold application H2021-006 Stone Manor Woods Phase 4, and 9.4 the development charges update bylaw be approved with the exception of 9.2 and 9.5. So we're voting on that. All those in favor? That is carried. So we'll start with the last one first, continuing with 9.5. Okay, where do we leave off then? Yeah, CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in the discussion that ensued prior or after the August 4th meeting, I did reach out to the county to see whether or not there was any options for assistance. They were interested in providing an opportunity to assist with procurement documents, if you will, which we had that discussion, but they're not interested, obviously, in any type of shared facility, and that comment has been made a few times by them. Further to that, I did have an opportunity to reach out to the former fire chief that was here during the last time this topic came up, and was involved in the process, as well as the former deputy chief. Neither one of them could confirm that the township had purchased any design. There was, I believe, a preliminary drawing, if you will, but it's not the ownership of the township. And again, Dom Construction had an opportunity to bid or submit on this particular item, and they chose not to. So that's the information that I'm able to share, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, so we have no drawings from Dom, and we have no interest of them in continuing to bid for this. So I think it's a non-starter to be able to get anything from them or get their interest. Councillor Hannah?
Thank you. Again, Mayor, I'm sure you recall being on the committee as well. my recollection is Dom Constructions were the builders, but the architect was a separate firm. And
Yeah.
paid them $150,000 for their drawings. So the record would be, I would think, in our expenditure of tax dollars. And I would just suggest that it would have been appropriate if we could have reached out to them to see, as I mentioned before, they could tailor the new requirements.
CEO Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, from the information that I was provided by the former fire chief and deputy chief, I'm trying to remember the actual, I believe Councillor Hanna is correct that there was a drawing provided by, I want to say, Cowan or someone along those lines, but we did not purchase those designs or drawings. The township is not in ownership of those designs or drawings.
Okay, other comment with respect to this? Councillor Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I just think from listening in here, and I wasn't around obviously when the other fire hall was being investigated and they were looking at it, but just based on the resolution, I think maybe going forward, and it might be appropriate that in a situation where a resolution can't be met, that maybe council is provided with that information prior to. At least we wouldn't find ourselves in this position where a member who was in discussion about it at the time and brought it up and had it actually put into the resolution is wondering what happened, and we're finding out today that the information just wasn't available. I'm just thinking that going down the road, there might be an opportunity to clear that up prior to a council meeting so that no one's caught by surprise, I guess. And I'm not trying to say anything. It's just that's the way it's turned out.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Allen. And I fully respect what Councillor Cabral and Hannah are saying. And I'm just curious, through you to Clerk Ainsworth, what would be the process on that? This is the first experience I'm having with this, and just on a go forward basis, I would like to know, should the resolution of council not be met by staff, what would be the process?
Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you to Deputy Mayor Collin. I'm sorry, if I could just ask for a bit of clarification, just by what you mean when the resolution not being met.
And sorry, thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you, my apologies. A portion of the resolution does actually state that an investigation, whichever, and then in the report, it doesn't allude to that. So I'm just curious, as to our knowledge, as Councillor Cabral has just brought forward, that this was almost the first that we've been hearing that it wasn't able, it's not that it wasn't attempted, it wasn't able to be met. So I'm just curious if a resolution is not fulfilled, and tender goes out and this process, the procurement process does happen, how does this, in the municipal act, how does that move forward? It's just the first time that I've experienced it in 7 or 8 years here.
Well, I would think that if part of the resolution wasn't able to be carried out, as has been discussed here, it would be stated as such in the report. Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And yeah, that's exactly correct. And also, if there's a follow-on resolution of council based on a second report or a follow-up report, then that resolution would stand, even if, because, at the time it might be thought that something could take place, and with further investigation, it couldn't. It would not be anything against the Municipal Act. It's within council's purview and authorities under the Municipal Act to make these kinds of decisions. So there wouldn't be any ramifications legislatively speaking.
Okay, can I have a mover and seconder then for 9.5? Councillor Cabral, Councillor Ma Chapman, that the report from the General Manager, Infrastructure and Operational Services, notice of award, design of new fire station dated December 15th be received, and that the architectural engineering services be awarded to Masri O Inc. to complete 30% of the design for the new fire station contract Phase 1 preliminary design, tendering geotechnical and hydrological investigations for 193,008.19, including HST recoveries, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement. All those in favor? Councillor Cabral, you want to do?
Just as a point, Mayor Allen, before we vote, with respect to the hydrological studies, have those not already been carried out on that piece of property?
General Manager?
Through you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Cabral. Councillor Cabral, even if they were carried out, I would expect that any new consultant coming on board would not prefer to rely on someone else's work, would prefer to do their own work. So I would expect them to want to redo it. So that's why it was included in the assignment. That's essentially what it is. But there would be an opportunity.
I would also.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was going to say there's also an opportunity for the architect that's coming on board with their engineers to look at information that we do have. And if they're comfortable with using it, I would expect that they would use it and we would gain a credit for that.
There were some hydrological studies done as part of the environmental assessment with the assessing the environmental challenge with respect to this, but to what General Manager just said, I would imagine, well, I know that the consultant would want to look at the hydrological aspects of the design of this particular part of the property. Councillor Ritchie?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Allen. I think Councillor Cabral touched on something worth talking about. Talking it up is, we spent $300,000 or $400,000 on an environmental study. So hydrogeological, all the findings should be there in those reports to satisfy any digging or whatever as far as that goes. So to go and do another one, I think you're throwing good money after bad. So I agree with and like Mahesh just said, like if they don't need it, then fine. But I would lean on the side that go and look at the reports. We spent a lot of money there to make sure we covered our backside. So I'm sure they should be sufficient. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. So again, we'll repeat the vote. All those in favor?
I got a problem.
2, 3, 4, 5. That is carried. Thank you. Moving on to back to 9.2. Mover and seconder to get this on the floor. Councillor Cabral, Councillor Moore. Okay, picking up where we left off. Is there an amendment that somebody wants to make to this motion? Councillor Cabral?
Mayor Allen, I don't know if I want to make an amendment right now. I would ask that it be deferred to the next regular council meeting. So that I'd be quite honest with you, have a real good look at it and have an opportunity to examine the implications and how it stacks up to the other committees that council members sit on, because quite often we're sitting on committees that basically we get assigned to them in some way, shape, or form. So that would be my request, sir.
Is there a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Moore, Deputy Mayor Coughlin? No.
Oh, my apologies. My space bar got rid of my camera there instead of my mute button. Through yourself, Mayor Allen, to Clerk Ainsworth, as part of our regular review of the committees and the composition and structure of them, understanding that we did submit quite a bit of information about that. Would this be coming forward to a separate meeting, and could this then, through yourself and maybe to Councillor Cabral, be incorporated in that? I just feel that this would be as part of a larger look at our committees.
Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through you to council. The BIA was dealt with separately as it is a board with its own authorities under the Municipal Act. The committees of council we have been doing as a separate project because they cannot be treated one and the same. Committees of council only have as much authority as council provides to them, which in speaking in terms of spring water, our committees do not actually have any authority. Advisory committees of council do not have any actual authority to make any decisions. There's only a few select committees, Committee of Adjustment, the Heritage Committee, who are quasi-judicial and have certain allowances. So they're treated a little separately. The BIA, again, is its own separate entity as it's allowable through the Municipal Act and has its own part of the legislation. So that's why this is being dealt with on its own. What I did want to mention regarding the role of council. So as Councillor Cabral had mentioned, most of them are fairly generic, not very specific. The portion that he is referring to, says that the council representative will act as a resource to the board and the general BIA on matters pertaining to township policies, bylaws, accountability to ensure BIA practices and procedures are aligned with those of the township. As the council representative to the BIA, there is an enhanced responsibility to ensure that the BIA is in conformance with what township policies and bylaws are. It's just part of the nature of being the council representative on a board that has legislative duties, more so enhanced than committees, just because the advisory committees don't have that authority to make decisions. So that's why that portion has been put in there. It does say act as a resource. It's not putting the responsibility of the council member representative to ensure that the BIA is following all of legislation and whatnot. It's just as a resource, so to the best of their ability. And quite honestly, I feel that a member of council representative on a board such as this should have a responsibility to, bring up issues if they find that the board is going against township policies, provincial legislation, as long as it's within their knowledge. I feel like that responsibility should be there, because if the council member representative or the staff liaison isn't responsible for that kind of portion, then who is? It needs to stay within the umbrella of the township, and though that's the link to these boards between the board and the township is the staff liaison as well as the council member representative. But staff obviously don't have any issues with the deferral till January. I'm also available to answer any questions that might become more detailed between now and then, just to make members of council feel a bit more comfortable. I have a motion ready to defer to the January 19th meeting if council would like to continue with that.
Please go ahead.
It would read that the motion now before council be deferred to the January 19th, 2022 regular meeting of council.
And we have Councillor Cabral. Did we get a seconder for that? Councillor Moore? All those in favor? That is carried. Now we have to do the main motion, do we?
Nope.
No.
Thank you.
Okay. The screen just. Okay, so that is all of those. So we're moving on to information reports. Mover and seconder to get these on the floor. Councillor Ma Chapman and Councillor Cabral. The bylaw services monthly activity report. Any questions about that? Report items listed herein be received as information. Bylaw services monthly activity report, November 2021. All those in favor? That is carried. Verbal reports, official plan and economic development, Director Spagnell.
I have nothing new to report, Mayor Allen. Thank you.
Okay, Mid-Hearst development update, General Manager Ramdale.
Yes, Mayor Allen, thank you. Just one thing to report this week, which is the contractor for the effluent main that will go from the site to Willow Creek. That contractor is actually mobilized the site and is taking the preparatory work for the construction. So they are on site and they are about to begin the construction work. And that's the only thing new from last week. Thank you.
Thank you. And CEO Schmidt, you're going to clarify everything with respect to the COVID updates every half hour.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just further to your comment, I will do my best considering some of these announcements were made during our last meeting. So I stand to be corrected, but I'll do my best. And again, so as you're all aware, uncertainty surrounding COVID-19 continues and public health officials continue to grapple with the impacts of the new variant of concern referred to as the Omicron variant. So from a federal perspective, it's my understanding this afternoon, the federal government has advised Canadians against non-essential international travel, and that's in an attempt to limit the spread of this new variant. It's also my understanding that this would be similar to the recommendation they provided back in March of 2020 and was only recently lifted in October of this year. From a provincial standpoint, quite a few updates today. So this one's not as of today, but as of this past Monday, December 13th, those individuals age 50 and older did become eligible to book their third dose or booster shot. And the province is obviously encouraging all those that are eligible to go and get their shot. Further to that, the province did announce this afternoon that starting Monday, December 20th, individuals age 18 and over will be eligible to schedule their booster dose appointment through the province's booking portal. Appointments will be booked 3 months or 84 days after their second dose or after a second dose. Additionally, pharmacies and other channels may provide boosters for 18 and over at the 3-month interval starting this Friday, December 17th, and that would be for walk-ins. Also, starting today, individuals age 50 and over, as well as those currently eligible who have already booked their appointment at an interval of 6 months or 168 days, can call the Provincial Vaccine Contact Center to rebook for an earlier date at the 3-month interval and can change their appointment through the province's booking portal. And that can commence on Monday, I believe, that you can start to make those changes. Effective this Saturday, December 18th at 12:01 a.m., the province intends to introduce a 50% capacity limit to the following indoor areas of venues with a usual capacity of 1,000 people or more. Those facilities are used for, some of those facilities are facilities used for sports and recreational fitness activities, entertainment facilities such as concert venues, theaters and cinemas, racing venues, meeting and event spaces, museums, galleries, casinos, bingo halls, and other gaming establishments, as well as fairs, rural exhibitions, and festivals. So those are the updates that I'm aware of from the province today, Mr. Mayor. Further to that, I'm also aware that the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit has advised that they would be taking or could be taking additional actions to prevent further spread of COVID-19. And some of these actions are stepping up its efforts over the next few weeks to increase the level of vaccination amongst residents. They will be focusing on providing booster doses for eligible individuals. And those would be individuals age 50 and older, but I guess as of the province's update today, that'll likely be 18 and older. They'll also be making sure that access to the first dose for vaccinations for those 5 years of age and 5 years to 11 are also a priority. The health unit is placing all non-COVID related programs and services on hold so that staff can be redeployed to support the COVID-19 vaccination efforts. And it's also my understanding, Mr. Mayor, and again, this is subject to possibly change based on the province's announcement today, but I believe the health unit is also contemplating on issuing a letter of instruction and a Section 22 order, which could provide for further capacity restrictions in certain business types in Simcoe Muskoka. And I will provide further information once that's being confirmed. From a township perspective, again, all township facilities do remain open to the public with the exception of our community halls. Staff will be attending our regularly scheduled meeting with the health unit tomorrow morning to determine if any further changes may be required with respect to the provision of our services. And again, should there be any changes, I will be definitely communicating that to members of council, staff, and to our residents. From a vaccination standpoint, for Simcoe Muskoka, and this includes eligible population 5 and older, 83.5% have received a single dose, whereas 78.6% have received 2 doses, and 10.3% have received a 3rd dose. For Springwater, eligible population of 12 and older, 93.5% have received a single dose, and 91.6% have received 2 doses. Springwater is rated amongst the highest regarding vaccination coverage in all of Simcoe Muskoka, so congratulations, Springwater. For Springwater, eligible population 5 years to 11 years old, 45% have now received a single dose. And just finally, Mr. Mayor, Springwater has had 460 confirmed cases, 460 confirmed cases of COVID-19, which is an increase of 66 cases since my last update on December 1st. Of those, 404 have recovered, none are in hospital, and no new deaths. That concludes my update for this evening, Mr. Mayor. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, CAO. Questions for CAO on this? A lot of information. What, how are we disseminating our interpretation of the information in our Springwater channels for residents to review?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So that'll be a conversation I will be having tomorrow with our communications officer. As I mentioned, the health unit calls at 10 o'clock tomorrow. So I'll be discussing that with her shortly after that. And we do have a community control group meeting scheduled for tomorrow afternoon as well.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Mayor. And this might be better suited for tomorrow's meeting, but also with just information to residents being pushed out through our community groups as well. I know Barrie Minor Hockey has closed or canceled their rep programs. I know that there is comments and concerns about the Elmville Arena and our outdoor rinks and such. So just if we can just get a communication out to our families. I know that a lot of the young families out there really have no idea what to do or how to move forward or whether they should be going to arenas or whatnot. So I'm definitely think that we need to get a handle on that tomorrow.
Yep, I think that's the intent. Thank you. County updates, Deputy Mayor.
There was none.
Municipal updates. Anybody have municipal updates? Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I was wondering if either CAO Schmidt or Mahesh Ramdale could give us, looking for an update on the Swaley Drain. Have they started? Just what's happening there with that?
CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will start and definitely hand things over to Manager Ramdale. It's my understanding that the construction works have not yet started. I believe we're currently in the process of trying to obtain the permit from the NVCA, which I'm hopeful that will be happening very shortly here. But the full intent, I believe, of construction commencing in January. And I believe, and again, GM Ramdale can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's an 8-week or 8 to 10 week construction period. And I believe we do have to be done, I want to say by March, due to some of the environmental concerns. So happy to pass things over to GM Ramdale for any further updates there.
General Manager.
Through you, Mayor Allen, CEO Schmidt did a pretty good job there. That's it.
Good. Yeah, follow on, Councillor Ritchie.
I just thank you, Mayor Allen, and thank you for the update, Jeff. I appreciate it. I was under the understanding they were supposed to start that in the fall, but I stand to be corrected. But I'm just hoping that they can move forward with this and they do deliver with that permit to get started. So thank you again, and please keep us up to date. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Ma Chapman.
Hi, Alan. I'm just going to give an update on the First Menacing Tractor Parade was Friday night. Well attended. We have lots of tractors and ATVs out there, and we donated a truckload of food and some money donations to the Elmville Food Bank. So they were very, very happy. Aunt Mills CRA had to postpone their tree lighting from last Saturday because of the high winds, and it's moved to this Friday, December 17th. Starting at 6:30, Santa arrives on the fire truck at 6:45, and the tree lighting will be at 7, followed by fireworks after. And past Sunday, Mary Ellen and I attended the Aunt Mills Santa Claus Parade. It was a beautiful day. Lots of floats in the parade, and then after they had hot cider and hot chocolate and some prizes to give out, and was all well attended. Thank you.
And just to make note, Councillor Ma Chapman, the after presentations were outside with the proper distancing and masking. They weren't inside the community center. So that was good. Good event. Beautiful sunny day, as you say. Any other municipal updates? Notices of motion. Any notices of motion? Any items for future consideration? Not tonight. We're at 14.1. Can I have a mover and seconder for approval of the bylaws, please? I see Clerk Ainsworth, Councillor Ma Chapman, Councillor Moore, Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. We do just have to pull 2021-116 as it's been deferred to the January 19th meeting.
Okay. So that the bylaws listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. 2021-115, appointment of a municipal law enforcement officer. 2021-117, development charges update bylaw. 5000-347, remove holding provision Stone Manor Woods Phase 4. All those in favor? That is carried. Confirmatory bylaw, mover and seconder. Councillor Cabral and Councillor Ma Chapman, that the bylaw 2021-118 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council at the regular meeting held on December 15, 2021, listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. All those in favor? That is carried. The mover and seconder to adjourn. Councillor Moore and Councillor Ma Chapman, that the regular meeting of the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 7:38 p.m. to meet again the regular meeting January 19th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. I wish all those who are tuning in, who are not going to be tuning in tomorrow's budget meetings, and a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And hopefully things will improve quickly in 2022 from the uncertainty that we presently have. That's it. Thanks. Good night.